Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and thank you guys so much for joining me over the first couple of weeks at redvoicemedia.com, where we're doing our daily show Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you're coming over for the premium stuff, great. If you're not, you're about to see a portion of one of those broadcasts. That's now free, by the way, because every 2 weeks they're releasing it. But I'd encourage you guys to do what? Come on over, support the broadcast. Come over to redvoicemedia.com/Jason, subscribe, and that way you support me, you support the broadcast, and you support content like this. So here's a 60-second ad for, it just outright outlines how they hate you, they hate your children. And when I say they, again, you have this eugenist, predator class, that look at you like chattel, that look at you like bugs. You're not really even human to them. They are above you. So take the drugs and give the drugs to your kid.
For children struggling every day with ADHD, help turn the tables with Qelbree, a non-stimulant prescription medication for children 6 to 17 with ADHD.
6 to 17 for something that did not exist when I was a kid. ADD would just start to come along when I was like a teenager. Some people start talking about ADD, and then now it's ADHD. In other words, you don't have discipline. You can't pay attention anymore. There are no consequences for your action while you have a phone in the classroom. So you know what? Let's give you drugs that could cause psychotic, even suicidal episodes of depression. That's a great idea. Disassociate you from reality. You're 6-year-old. You're 6-year-old. When I was 6, I was off the frickin' walls. Before we go back to this, let's go back to 6-year-old Jason Bermas. What does Jason Bermas remember about being 6 years old? More than you might think. My big thing when I was 6 is that I was in the first grade, gotten on from kindergarten. And I still remember some of my first grade experiences. I remember my first grade teacher, Miss McMahon, or Mrs. McMahon at the time. I don't know why I said Miss McMahon. Maybe it's a WWE thing, who was also Mrs. McMahon. Anyway, I struggled with reading up until about the 4th grade is where I got out of the lower, you know how they had like 3 tiers? And I was in the lowest tier. In fact, they almost considered holding me back in the 1st grade, which I think would have been tragic, because by the 3rd grade, I was pretty much advanced in everything other than reading. I had no problem with anything else. And then by the 4th grade, I got the reading angle on it. Now, what it didn't take was a bunch of drugs, okay? Because let me tell you something. From 1st to about 4th grade, I think 2nd or 3rd grade is the first time I got to play a Little League. That's a big deal for Jason Bermas, 9, 10 years old. I think it was 10. You know, that also a huge deal. But in order to get better at school, I had to pay attention. I had to do my homework, right? I had to get past just being a total hyper kid. I had a little brother, beating the hell out of each other all the time. You know, that not the most stable home life at times. Okay, I didn't need Qelbrees. I don't know how it could have helped my development. I know I didn't have a magic box in front of me all the time. I know it's different times, but you're drugging your children, not for ADD, but ADHD. Let's keep playing it. I mean, this to me just shows me they hate your ass.
For challenging ADHD symptoms, once daily Qelbree helps provide significant relief. So instead of their world revolving around ADHD, Qelbree helps make ADHD symptoms manageable.
See, that's the other thing. Doesn't cure anything. You know, how could it? It's a nonsense diagnosis. Doesn't cure, makes it manageable. We're going to zombify your child. Make them manageable. Make it easier for you not to parent your kid. We'll make them manageable.
It's not known if Qelbree is safe and effective for children under 6.
Oh, but the 6-year-old magic marker. Nah, we don't know if it's safe and effective. Every time I hear safe and effective now, boy, I love it. It's gravy, isn't it? Safe and effective. Safe and effective. Safe and effective. The Bernaysian talking point that allowed us to inject billions of people with DARPA-run bioweapons. Safe and effective. Safe and effective. What did I say? Safe and effective.
Pay attention to changes in your child's mood, behavior, thoughts, or feelings within the first few months of treatment or when the dose is changed, as medications like Qelbree may increase the risk of suicidal thoughts or behaviors in some children.
Oh, wow. You know, because my 6-year-old, and there's been an epidemic of that, 6 to, I believe this is up to 16. Now, teenagers, sure. Yeah, teenage time's tough. But a lot of 6-year-old suicides out there. Let's give them a pill that could increase suicidal thoughts or behavior. What is suicidal behavior other than trying to kill yourself? You don't get round 2 on that one if you succeed. I mean, let's roll it back. Let's roll it back. Just insane. They hate you. Oh, the little kid. Oh, he's doing the dishes now that we've drugged him.
Changes in your child's mood, behavior, thoughts, or feelings within the first few months of treatment or when the dose is changed, as medications like Qelbree may increase the risk of suicidal thoughts or behaviors in some children. Tell your doctor about all your child's medications. Do not take MAOIs with or within 14 days of starting Qelbree. Qelbree can increase heart rate and blood pressure and may cause manic episodes in patients with bipolar disorder.
It may cause manic episodes in people with bipolar disorder. Another thing that I think is, again, a real thing, just like, depression's a real thing, heavily overdiagnosed. ADD, ADHD, not so sure. Not so sure. Especially not something that's supposedly going to be manageable that could cause suicidal thoughts and behaviors and full-on manic episodes.
Qelbree may cause sleepiness or fatigue, so use caution before driving or operating heavy machinery. Visit Qelbree.com and ask their doctor if non-stimulant Qelbree can help make your child's ADHD symptoms manageable.
Can Qelbree make them manageable? Hey, don't worry. You could pay, as commercially insured patients, pay as little as $20 each month for the first year. It's like they're selling you cable and internet access. They hate you. This shows they hate you. Okay? And to extend this, which we're about to do, they not only want you drugged up, they not only want you in the metaverse that we talk about all the time, in this virtual environment, they not only want to regiment you through transhumanism, right? Bio-nanotech injections, track, trace, database technologies that may actually help you out, right? Certain types, like obviously a pacemaker is a great thing. A cochlear implant is a great thing. A lot of these technologies are the Trojan horse backdoor systems of great things, right? But at the end of the day, they want you literally. Brave New World. She talked about Julian Huxley. Let's talk about Aldous. Yes, they're brothers. They actually, in that discussion with Glenn Beck, talk about the circles that they were raised in and the discussions they were having. This Brave New World of you literally being drugged by the system. All right? While they get you into this sustainability, Mockingjay, Hunger Games type societies. David Icke talks about the Hunger Games society, doesn't he? Not allowed to go anywhere in the European Union no more. David Icke. He's so dangerous. Dr. Danger, David Icke. All right, so, and this is how you know it's global. We talk about the United Nations, we talk about bloodlines, I've talked about royalty. I talk about European royalty a lot, but Middle Eastern royalty, yeah, same deal, same agenda.
A revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint.
Oh, we're so say carbon footprint. And this is the thing. They moved, and another great point that Whitney Webb put out there. They moved this real movement of people who are like, hey, you're polluting the water. Hey, you're polluting the air. Hey, you're dumping garbage over here. Hey, you're cutting down the forest. That was actually like transitional because they knew they could always replant the forest. That was another big deal. And now Gates, totally uninterested in replant, says there's no point in replanting trees because the soil is so degraded. What? And listen, we do have degraded soil. Doesn't mean we can't use soil conditioners, fulvic acid, other minerals and tools to regrow trees. You lying bastard. Not a real excuse, okay? But they moved it into this idea of carbon being the enemy. Now, it doesn't matter that the carbon footprint of the military is completely exempt and one of the worst because we live in the post-truth world. We moved everything to carbon because what? It has everything to do with regimenting human life and really life in general on the planet. That's why when Dennis Bushnell talks, he says not only have we taken control of human evolution, we've taken control of the evolution of everything on the planet because it is 10 million times faster than normal evolution. We're just doing that. You and I didn't get consulted at all. 0%. So when they talk about, they use the buzzwords, safe and effective, footprint. They're going to take a city that's already overpopulated, that already has people running around with the idea that we're overpopulated, because a lot of people that live in cities, folks, not everybody, you know, some place, sometimes it's a place for people to thrive, right? Other people get so damn jaded that they just hate everything around them. And they believe that they buy into this idea that humanity is plague-like. Prince Charles? There are too many of us. Hey, you live in New York City, drive 2 hours. Drive 3, drive 4. You're going to find there's a lot going on in other places that isn't city-like. And when I say a lot going on, I'm talking about real nature. I'm talking about trees and rivers and birds and sunshine and happiness. Connecting with nature is very important, okay? I used to not get it when I was a kid, right? I did not quite understand it. As soon as it starts to get taken away from you and you're not around it as much, and you start getting congested, even in semi-urban environments, all of a sudden you're like, man, I really do like living in the country. A lot of people. The convenience of living in a city, great. Even growing up around there, there's something about being alone in your own thoughts or with your family. It's a connection with the God spirit, if you will. When Whitney talks about that, everything good in humanity, that's why I sit here all the time and I say, look, I'm not a preacher. I'm not going to tell you what to believe in. I'm not even sure what I believe in that realm. I say I'm agnostic at best. But the thing I do believe in that is real, and it is realer than anything, than me, than you, than this table, okay, is good and evil. Because no matter what our reality is, right? What our earth, our universe, any of it, whatever it is, good and evil do exist. They're 100% real. And sometimes that line is blurred, but sometimes it could not be clearer. It could not be clearer that it exists. And evil is so in your face right now on so many levels. But there's so much evil out there. The guy like the Muskernuts on Halloween can wear the Devil's Champion outfit with Baphomet on the cover and an upside-down cross on Baphomet's head. And that's the guy we're looking for. That's the dude. He's the one. He's going to save us with a sustainable future. Don't worry, they're going to consolidate the footprint of an already overcrowded city. Great.
Designing to protect and enhance nature.
All for nature. Remember, Club of Rome had to make the assumption that it was human beings that were the problem. Footprints, carbon, not real pollution. And the people that have done all this will still remain in power and control. No biggie.
The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. Travel end to end in 20 minutes. Designed by world-leading architects, the line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 170 kilometers long, and housed within an elegant mirror glass facade. The line is designed as a series of unique communities providing equitable views and immediate access to the surrounding nature.
Immediate access to surrounding nature, equitable views. A city stacked up the size of the Eiffel Tower. Do you believe any of this? Can you imagine the actual slave grid? You want to empower humanity. You don't crunch them all together for the environment. You spread them out. And then you take that same maglev train system that we could have been utilizing in this country for years. It's one of those things that, I mean, if you want to run for the president of the United States, right, why aren't you talking about instituting that program that would be over at least 2 administrations? I think you can get it done in 2 administrations, though, at least the main part of that infrastructure. You get it, you start going. That would empower humanity, not a maglev train that runs up and down a slave grid, which is what they're proposing, but a maglev train system akin to the highway system that Eisenhower brought in for not only trade routes, which you could have the trade routes, but the empowerment of you being able to work in a different state. In a different state via maglev trains. It'd be a huge game changer. That's not what they want. They're not here to empower humanity. They're here to cull and enslave it. Whitney Webb, depopulation agenda. Muskernuts.
At the heart of the globe's key trade routes, a place for commerce and communities to thrive. The Line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
No. The city that delivers the enslavement of humanity on behalf of a predator class agenda. When you hear equity, when you hear diversity, when you hear sustainability, it's not your friend. It's not Good Times McGrady. So, for the umpteenth time, we're going to play Dennis Bushnell of NASA. Again, NASA, Muskernuts, sustainability. 2011, talking Malthus 101, Malthusianism, talking about population control that's instigated, again, not by you or I. We don't get to do it, but population control that's instigated that changes everything. What sustainability actually means, it's your standard of living dumping into something like that. Ooh, it's shiny glass. You can walk wherever. It looks like a superhero movie. Am I in the Marvel universe? No, man. No. I mean, talk about polishing a turd. So this guy's still in power. One of those bureaucrats behind the scenes. One of those people pushing this agenda. And that productivity improvement agenda of Musk is transhuman. It's automation. It's robotics. It's man merging with machine. So we can't help it. We're putting it in the broadcast. Here it is, Dennis Bushnell.
In fact, prevention of collapse of the ecosystem has now become the overwhelming issue. Current food production is based on freshwater plants, i.e. glycophytes. We're running out of fresh water, as you know. The code word is sustainability. The crashing of the ecosystem is due to population growth and the way we're now living, our standard of living. The estimates vary between 30 and 50% of a planet that we're currently short to sustain the standard of living and the current population, much less the population growth. As the Asians and their billions come up as they are at 9 to 11% growth rate to Western standards of living, we're going to be short 3 more planets, and they're not readily available. This will result in peak everything. This will result in standards of living plunging.
So this is Malthus 101. He's going to let you know. But once again, it's weird. The ecosystem appears to be crashing. Humans are bad. Humans are bad. We don't have enough room. We don't have enough stuff. What does that mean? That means we've got to cull a bunch of you.
This is Malthus 101. These innate ecosystem restrictions and shortfalls will necessarily shift world econometrics from a growth mantra to one of sustainability, with possible population control instigated along the way It changes everything.
Population control instigated along the way that changes everything. You wouldn't use bio-nanotech to sterilize people, would you? You wouldn't do that, would you? You wouldn't chemically attack a male populace to make them less fertile, would you? Would you, Dennis? Would you and your cohorts, Dennis?
In terms of employment, just as an example, we are in a jobless economic recovery. There's about 7 million jobs missing. Some of them were globalized and offshore, about a third. The rest of them are gone. The code word is productivity improvement, which is a code word for ever better automation and robotization.
Isn't it awesome how they have these code words? See, behind closed doors, when you're talking to representatives of the military-industrial complex, like he's doing here at the Blue Tech Forum, of the techno-fascist corporate system, right, of that private-public partnership that's promoted by the World Economic Forum, when you're in a room with them, you let them know what the code words are. And the code words are sustainability and productivity improvement. Now, what is a code word? Well, traditionally, a code word is a word you use for something else when you're talking to other people that aren't in the know. They use the code words in military, usually. That's where you see it. So this guy's literally telling you, while we tell the public about sustainability and productivity improvement, what we're really saying is productivity improvement means you're being replaced by robots as we merge humanity with machines. And sustainability means your standard of life is going to continue to suck more as we cull you. I think that's a very nice way of me saying that. I think I could say it much worse. They speak to you as children. That's why we played the Great Dictator's speech. Machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. We are not machines. We are not machines. We have the love of humanity in our heart. And to me, the representation of good, the ultimate good, is love. And love is the ultimate truth.
If you look at the way the robots are going, human-level machine intelligence from the IBM Blue Brain Project is now about 10 to 15 years out. Via biomimetics, where they've nanosectioned the neocortex and they're replicating in silicon, okay? And they're having great success at all of this. So this is not soft computing, this is via biomimetics. We have looked 20, 30 years out with the way robotics and automation and machine intelligence is going at what jobs the machines cannot do. The answer is none. We thought we need human touch labor in nursing homes for a while, but the Japanese 2 years ago put robots in nursing homes, and patients like them much better than the humans.
And again, they use those same robots and different versions of them, Grace, Sophia's cousin, all right, in European nations and also in the UK during COVID 1984. Robots are programmed. They follow their programming. Now, human beings are often programmed via Bernaysian propaganda, talking points, celebritard culture, the mainstream media. But a human being, because we are conscious, can look around them, make observations, see and hear things, different information, why free speech is so important. And then all of a sudden, break their programming. They can have a thing called empathy for their fellow man. You know what doesn't? A programmed machine, a robot. It does what it's programmed to do. It doesn't have any empathy for you. And that's what they want to bring in?
The machines are creating wealth within the strictures of the ecosystem capability. The machines are reducing costs, okay, producing wealth, but the humans increasingly can't compete.
We can't compete, guys. Kind of useless. So I want to move on to some of these monsters among us and predator class transhumanists and how they intertwine. For instance, Peter Nygaard. You know, a lot of people forget about the Nygaard case. Whitney Webb and Beck discussed in that interview the death of Jean-Luc Brunel, who was found hung in a prison in Spain. Talked about, obviously, the Epstein death, why she believed Maxwell was still alive. Talked about some of the Clinton Association deaths out there. Really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. Now, somebody who's still alive is another one of these transhumanists, and somebody who was in the fashion industry, and somebody who had their own resort, not quite their own island, and somebody who was into transhumanism, also raping children. Okay, let's not sugarcoat it. Some of these girls were 14 years old, making them have abortions, and then using the stem cells from those abortions to inject into himself in these de-aging processes. Okay? A victim of sexual harassment assigned to a job where a supporter of her alleged harasser became her boss, an IT professional humiliated by years of anti-Indigenous racism from her supervisor, a journalist who wonders if Peter Nygaard's alleged abuses might have ended earlier if she could have reported the experiences of 3 women. Now, basically, they're saying all these people around Nygaard had to keep their mouths shut because they'd all signed NDAs. Well, you have to ask yourself, yeah, you signed a non-disclosure agreement. If they're breaking the law and they're causing misery to other human beings, is it time to break that agreement? Are you really in breach of that agreement when these things are happening? Excuse me. Those people were among more than a dozen who shared their stories Wednesday night at the Manitoba Legislature during a committee hearing for a Liberal bill to stop the use of non-disclosure agreements in cases of harassment and discrimination. They proposed legislation is similar to a bill that passed unanimously in Prince Edward Island earlier this year. A few days ago, Nova Scotia's premier said the use of these contracts is an active, urgent situation he wants to address. Now, I would say this. NDAs under certain circumstances, whatever. When we're talking about the rape of kids or rape in general or violent crimes in general, no. No. Non-disclosure agreements have also been in the news lately in connection with a hockey Canada scandal and revelations that non-disclosure agreements were used in some settlements involving sexual allegations by players. They have been for decades, right? They have been for decades. But in this case, especially with Nygaard, you know, it's insane. It's insanity. And I want to say this, you know, these monsters are often protected because they walk amongst us everywhere. All right. In Hollyweird, we're going to play this clip. Seventh Heaven actor Stephen Collins explains how he sexually assaulted a 10-year-old. You can still stream Seventh Heaven on Hulu. Yes, that's Disney, by the way. And I believe when this report came out, it was still on the air, this show. When it first came out that he was doing this, pretty sure it was still on the air.
Was in 1973. You were 25 years old. How old was the victim?
She was 10.
Tell us what happened.
Well, in 1973, there were 2 occasions when I exposed myself to this young woman. And several
Not a young woman, it's a 10-year-old kid.
Months later, she came to visit, and she and I were watching TV alone together, and I took her hand and moved it in such a way that she was touching me inappropriately.
I mean, what do you say to that? And you know that's like, you know, the complete censored version of that. I mean, and I'm going to tell you right now, these people don't stop. They don't stop. They do not stop. Okay, here's a more localized case. Republican state Senate candidate charged with years of sexual abuse and rape of adopted child. Joel Koskin, 44, Wood, South Dakota. So again, trying to get into government, abusing this child since they were 12. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining us on that premium portion of the broadcast that's now free. So please consider supporting the broadcast over at redvoicemedia.com/Jason. We're going to keep kicking out the jams. And I also want to remind everybody that I am a documentary filmmaker, and all of my films are free and meant to be shared. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture. Please watch them, share them, and come on over to Red Voice Media 4 days a week for the Bermas Brigade and shouting out some reality rants.